What is up, y'all? Welcome back. We have some big bore action for you today. We have two very similar 44 Magnums from Smith & Wesson. We have a Model 69 Combat Magnum, that's an L frame, and we have a 629, that's an N frame. Obviously a little bit longer barrel on this one. This is a Snubby defense pistol I like to carry a lot, and this one's pretty much just for fun. Extra power for sure. But we're going to run some special stuff through it today to tame these beasts down just a bit. Now, as you know, 44 can be pretty darn brutal out of this gun and definitely out of this gun. We're going to smack some steel that we have behind us. We're just going to show you what normal 44 feels like and looks like. You'll get a feel for it through the camera, I guess, but it's definitely a no-joke cartridge. Anybody that has shot it, I don't think you can argue it's a mean mother. All right, we have a basic hand load recipe of H110 underneath a 240 grain round. As you can see, some pretty good fire, 6-inch barrel. Delivers. And that is a real bad day for anybody on the receiving end. A little bit unpleasant out of this gun, but not too bad. Like I said, those are range loads. Let's take those exact same range loads and put it in the Snubby. All right, Snubby Monster going hot. As you can see, lays them in there just the same, but definitely more of a handful. So how do we tame that down a little bit? With something like this, a Blazer aluminum case for some reason. They do have brass case, but this one's aluminum. Gold dot hollow point in 200 grain format for the 44 Special. As far as gold dots go, that's a very large cavity right there. That's pretty impressive looking. And I won't be worried about that aluminum casing at all. We don't have any problems ejecting aluminum casings, at least out of this gun. And this isn't a semi-automatic. We're not worried about reliability. And I guess unless you're a reloader, it really doesn't matter. The projectile is what we're after. It's the world-famous gold dot that almost always performs. All right, first up, let's see what kind of accuracy we get out of these two revolvers and see what kind of velocity we get out of them. And after that, it's gel time. All right, first up, 69 Combat Magnum, shooting for practical accuracy here and some numbers. Very soft shooter, 795 on the Caldwell, 792.5 here on the Garmin. I forgot that was a special that was going to go off the first time. 806, 800 back here. 807 back here and 804 up there on the Caldwell. They're getting along. 808.4 and 810 up there. 801.3 and 804, and that should be it. Let's go take a look. So good enough for my purposes, easy shooting. I did try to lay the sight in there every time the same way, so I would say it's just a little bit, I would call wobbly. I know that's practical accuracy. We're not on a rest or anything like that, but I'll say just from previous experiences with previous ammos out of this gun, this is probably not the most accurate, but we'll still do the job up in close quarters for self-defense. It's under a hand size, it's in the black, it'll do. Let's see what the 629 does. All right, let's see what the increased barrel length will get us. Nice trigger on this gun. It kind of went off before I expected it to, but we still got in the X-ring. 958 down there and 959.1 up here. Ooh, we might have put a hole in hole, not sure. 964.4 and 966. $983.3 and 983. So definitely got along on that one. Ooh, that was me. I was wobbling a little bit. Went just a little bit low. 955 down there and 954 back here. All right, again in the X circle, 950.2 and 946. All right, so the first two were definitely holes in holes. That's just a little bit larger than 44 caliber, so pretty darn close to being almost the exact same hole. I did pull that one down. That was me just wobbling with the sights a little bit. But with this firearm in particular, I can settle in there a lot better. The Snubby usually does pretty good at things, but not with this ammunition in general. Much better out of the longer barrel. That's awesome. All right, we have two 20-inch ballistics gel blocks set up. I don't think we're going to come out of the first one, but you never know. Nice shot. It should have stayed in there. $7.99 and nothing on the garment. It didn't pick it up. I put it in the wrong place, but let's go take a look. $7.99. Punched in the center right there where we wanted to towards the top. We'll have plenty of room to look from the side. All right, so the 2.5-inch barrel got us 11 inches of visible penetration. I say visible because we don't always see how far these projectiles actually puncture into gel. We just see the wound track that's left over as a permanent wound track. So bouncing back from that 11 inches that we can see, we are at, I'd say the projectile is at 9.25 to 9.5 inches. It's facing us. It definitely opened up. It had enough velocity to do what it was supposed to do. Looks very nice. The wound track, I would say, is moderate but nice. It's definitely not a mild wound track. I've seen 9mm do much worse than this. And like I said, out of this gun, very controllable. So it's not a whole lot of penetration. I would believe it's probably within that FBI spec if we could see if it poked just a little bit farther, but we're not totally sure. But for a controllable defense round, that's a very nice wound track, in my opinion. It has a pretty big diameter that we're going to cut out and show you here in a second, but we got to shoot out of that 6-inch first. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a different effect on the gel, but like I said before, you never know until you actually hit these gel blocks with things. Looking at it from a little bit of a different angle from the top down, you kind of see the same thing. I don't think it looks as terrible from the top, or I don't know what you want to call it, as severe from the top, but it still shows the same effect. Definitely did some corkscrewing through there, opened up. You can see the way it's facing. Very effective in my opinion. It did what it was supposed to do. All right, about 3.5 more inches. Let's see what the difference is. I'll try to scoot it to the left a little bit and lower. And that's exactly where it went. This is a very nice gun. 958.5 here and 957 down there. Let's go take a look. $957 down here, and exactly what we needed as far as hits. So at first glance, not much of a difference, but if you take a look at that projectile like we will when we get it out, it's definitely mushroomed out a little bit more. So then therefore, if you look at the gel, you will see a little bit of a difference, noticing that with a little bit more disruption, just looks a little bit more violent, a little bit farther. The bullet itself stayed farther instead of having such a bounce back. Again, we don't know if it poked any farther, but now it's landing at 10.75, 11 inches maybe at its farthest point, but it does have what appears to be a poke back from about 11.5 inches. Let's look from the top. All right, I will say from the top, it does look pretty impressive compared to the other one. They both are impressive, but this one a little bit more. For such a soft shooting gun, that really does look pretty nice. You can see once we get down to the end, it has mushroomed out beautifully. Gold dots are always calibrated for caliber very well, and this one does well out of both barrel lengths, so I would say that's pretty awesome. Let's get this stuff dug out. All right, I think we can definitely tell just by looking at these two which one came out of which gun. So we didn't have as much expansion out of this one, but it still opened up pretty nice. That is a very good diameter we got to. This one, however, though, really peeled back. They both have their little gold dots in the middle, but this one, holy crap, did it claw back. You can definitely see where the post ended up right there, no matter which way you look at it. Very impressive on both of these, but this one, let me try to stand it up on its side. I'll just have to hold it for you. Wow, that thing did a perfect curl. That thing is an awesome mushroom right there. Definitely really cool on both of these. They ended up about the same diameter. Let's measure them. All right, this one here that looks like the bell of a demonic tuba is 0.732. And the widest point out of the one that came out of the 6-inch is 0.737. The one out of the 2.5-inch did retain pretty much all of its weight. And I'm assuming that the other one did too. Didn't seem to break off much of anything. 200 right on the head. So neither one of them shed anything significant. Well, there you go. There's the information. Use it as you see fit. But I'm going to go ahead and say that CCI/Spear, that company, they know what they're doing with these gold dots. Very impressive loading all over the place, from 308 rifle down to something like 44 special. Super impressive. If you so choose to not be abused by these type of guns, that might be for you. That was some like total Dr. Seuss stuff right there. But it's true. There's another kind of rhyme. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, share it with someone else who might like it. If you're not subscribed, I highly recommend it. But if you are subscribed, please check your subscriptions because funny things do happen. And until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting. Definitely big bores.